you on a topic that's not only close to my heart, but critically important for the future of cybersecurity, and that is empowering women and enhancing security through diversity. So, in this session, we'll explore why diversity in cybersecurity isn't just a buzzword, it's a strategic advantage. We'll look at where the industry stands today, the unique challenges women face, and most importantly, how we can work together to build a more inclusive and secure future. So, let's dive in. Before stepping into the world of higher education, just a little bit about me. I served 8 years on active duty in the United States Air Force. During my military career, I worked in public health, which gave me a solid foundation in healthcare systems, leadership, and also risk mitigation. So, all skills that translate surprisingly well into cybersecurity today. After separating in 2014, I then transitioned into healthcare IT, working as a clinical systems analyst. In that role, I was responsible for managing and optimizing various healthcare technology applications, everything from electronic health records, EHRs, to data integrity initiatives. I led tech implementations across a lot diverse clinical settings, which really deepened my understanding of how vital security, usability, diversity, and innovation are in healthcare technology. And today, I serve as an instructor at WGU. What drew me to WGU is, of course, the student first philosophy. I'm deeply committed to empowering students, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds, not only to reach their academic goals, but to lead boldly in their fields. Um, and lastly, I'm especially passionate about creating space for women in cybersecurity and exploring the intersection of wellness, diversity, and digital security. I truly believe that a diverse workforce is the only way to make systems stronger and more resilient. And on a more personal note, I am a mom to two third graders, and every two third grade girls, I will say, and everything I do, whether it's in cybersecurity, my career at education, or advocacy, it's driven by a desire to create a safer, more inclusive digital world for them and their generation to grow up in. So here's a quick look at what we will be covering today. We will start by setting the stage, taking a look at the current cybersecurity landscape, what threats we're facing, and why this is so critical. Then we'll shift our focus to cybersecurity, exploring not just the challenges of representation, but also the untapped potential that exists in this space. From there, we'll dig into why diversity matters. It's not just a buzzword, but it's a strategic advantage that improves security outcomes. Next, we'll talk about what it really means to empower women in this field through education, mentorship, leadership, and organizational change. And finally, we'll bring it all together to show how we can truly enhance security through diversity and why the future of cybersecurity is dependent upon that. To understand why this conversation is so important, we need to take a moment to look at where cybersecurity stands today. The threat landscape is rapidly evolving. Attacks are not only becoming more frequent, but they're also more sophisticated. They're getting smart with ransomware, AI misuse, phishing attempts, supply chain attacks. They are now part of everyday reality, not just in the private sector, but across government agencies, healthcare systems, and even in schools. So the stakes are incredibly high. A single breach can cost millions of dollars, compromise sensitive data, and also damage public trust. So globally, cybercrime is expected to cost 10.5 trillion annually by the end of 2025. So not a number to sneeze at by any means. Um, on top of that, we're facing a massive talent shortage. Right now, there are over 3.5 million unfulfilled cybersecurity jobs around the world. That's not just a hiring issue, it's also a security risk with that amount of a gap. We simply don't have enough people defending digital systems at a time where threats are at an all-time high. This is why we need to start thinking differently about cybersecurity, not just as a tech issue, but as a human one. We need diverse perspectives, critical thinkers, and problem solvers who reflect the people that we're trying to protect. And that's where the opportunity for women in this field becomes so important. Let's take a closer look at the current challenges organizations are facing in cybersecurity. First, 93% of organizations experience two or more identity related breaches in just the past year. That means that's nearly every company, proving that identity management is one of the most critical and vulnerable areas in cybersecurity today. One big part of that is the rapid growth of machine identities. These are digital identities that are used by devices, servers, and applications to communicate. They're actually growing faster than human identities, so actual people. But many organizations aren't managing them as carefully, which opens a wide door for attacks. Another major issue is how we define privileged users. Right now, 61% of organizations still only think of privileged users as actual human people, like a systems administrator, IT administrator. But in reality, systems and automated processes often have high level access too. And if those are left unmonitored and unchecked, it creates a blind spot in security. Then, to make things even more challenging, we're facing a growing skills gap. In the next 2 years, 90% of organizations are expected to experience a critical tech skills shortage, especially in cybersecurity. And 34% already lack the cloud security skills that they need right now. So this data just shows the problem isn't just about technology, it's also about people, training, and how we define and manage identity across organizations. So let's talk about the current representation of women in cybersecurity. Globally, only about 24% of the cybersecurity workforce is made up of women, while that's up from just 11%, which is what it was at a decade ago. So we are showing progress. Um, it still shows a significant gender gap in the field, especially when you consider how critical cybersecurity has become. Mhm. And when we look at leadership roles, the gap is even wider. Only 1 in 5 cybersecurity leadership positions are held by women. And that tells us women are entering the field, but there are still systemic barriers to climbing the ranks, whether it's lack of mentorship, visibility, or inclusion in decision making spaces. So, interestingly, over half of the women in cybersecurity hold a master's degree or higher, which shows that women entering this field are extremely well qualified for it. And yet, still, many still face discrimination or bias. About 51% report experiencing some form of gender based discrimination in their roles, unfortunately. Um, but despite these challenges, the value of having more women in cybersecurity is clear. Research shows that diverse teams perform better, especially when it comes to solving complex problems, detecting risks, and innovating under pressure. So the bottom line to this is the industry isn't just missing out on talent, it's missing out on stronger, smarter teams by not actively supporting and including women. Sorry, pause for a quick drink break. So while we are seeing progress in women entering cybersecurity, there are still several barriers that make it difficult for them to break into this field. First, there's limited access to early education and exposure. A lot of girls simply aren't introduced to cybersecurity concepts in school, and when they are, the curriculum often doesn't feel relevant or welcoming. Um, Without early encouragement or relatable role models, key thing, many never even consider cybersecurity as an option for them. Then there's the issue of stereotypes and gender bias. Cybersecurity is still viewed by many as a male dominated field or overly technical field. And these are outdated perceptions that can make women feel like they just don't belong or that they need to overcompensate to prove that they do. Another major challenge is the lack of mentorship and networking. With fewer women in leadership roles, there are fewer mentors available to guide and support those who are just starting out. And often, informal networking like social events or peer groups can unintentionally leave women out of the loop for a lot of organizations. And finally, we have what we often call the confidence gap. This isn't about our ability, it's about perception. So research shows women are less likely to apply for roles unless they feel they meet 100% of the listed qualifications, whereas men often apply when they just meet around 60%. So many women struggle with imposter syndrome even when they're more than qualified to do the job. So all of these barriers are solvable, but only if we're intentional about recognizing and addressing them. Getting more women into cybersecurity is only half the battle. The other half is keeping them there. And unfortunately, retention continues to be a major issue in the field. One big factor is burnout. Cybersecurity is a high pressure environment with long hours, constant threats, little room for error. And for women, especially those who feel like they have to constantly overcompensate and prove themselves, that stress can be even more intense. The mental and emotional toll is real, and it often leads to early transfers out of the career field. Then we have the issue of work environments. Many women in cyber report experiencing discrimination, microaggression, or just being included from conversations. These environments just don't just make it harder to succeed, they make it hard to stay there. There's also lack of support and clear growth paths. Without mentorship, sponsorship, or inclusive leadership pipelines, it becomes really easy to feel stuck. So women may not see a future for themselves in the organization, even if they are highly skilled and more than qualified. So the result is that we see attrition outpacing recruitment. Many women enter cybersecurity with energy and excitement, but leave within just a few years, not because they aren't capable, but because the culture makes it difficult to thrive. So if we're serious about building stronger and more secure futures, we need to focus just as much on retention and belonging as we do on recruitment. So here, it's important to recognize that while challenges certainly do exist, many women are not only succeeding in cybersecurity, they are leading the way. Here are just a few inspiring examples. The first one being Parisa Tabriz. I apologize if I butcher any of these names. Often referred to as Google's security princess. She's the director of engineering at Google, and she leads the Chrome security team. Parisa is also known for her creative approach to cybersecurity and her dedication to building diverse, high-performing teams. She's a great example of how technical expertise and both leadership can coexist and thrive. Next is Camille Stewart, a true powerhouse both in policy and cybersecurity. She's worked at Google and she currently serves in the White House as the Deputy National Cyber Director. Camille focuses on digital equity and inclusive cyber policy, reminding us that cybersecurity isn't just about code, it's also about people, policy, and fairness. Her work is shaping how we think about national cybersecurity in really lasting ways. And finally, we have Maggie Louie, a former musician turned cybersecurity entrepreneur. She founded DevCon, a company that tackles ad fraud using innovative security tools. Maggie's story shows that cyber talent can come from non-traditional backgrounds and that fresh perspectives often lead to the most disruptive, successful solutions. So these women are proof that representation matters and that when we create space for diverse voices, we don't just open doors, we build stronger, more secure systems for everyone. When we talk about diversity in cybersecurity, we often think about gender, race, or background, and those are incredibly important. But another type of diversity that's just as critical is cognitive diversity. Cognitive diversity refers to the different ways people think, solve problems, process information. It's shaped by our personalities, experiences, culture, and even the industries that we've worked in. And in a field like cybersecurity, where threats evolve daily and there's no one size fits all solution, this kind of diversity is a major asset. So imagine a team made up of entirely people who all approach a problem the same way. They might miss something simply because no one's asking any different questions. But when you bring in people who analyze, who strategize, and who question assumptions, you create a team that's far more adaptable and far more effective. Cognitive diversity also helps teams perform better under pressure. It reduces groupthink. improves decision making and fosters innovation in how we approach defense, risk, and even the user experience. So, at its core, cybersecurity is about protecting people. And when the people designing those protections reflect a wide range of thinking styles and life experiences, the systems they build are not just more secure, they're more inclusive and more resilient. Um, Here is when cybersecurity teams are made of people from similar backgrounds with similar ways of thinking and problem solving, it creates what we call, I'm going to try to say this correctly, cognitive homogeneity. Homogeneity. Sorry, I practiced. On the surface, that can seem efficient. Everyone's on the same page, but in reality, it increases the risk of groupthink where critical questions don't get asked and certain threats go unnoticed. So the lack of diversity in thought and experience can often lead to missed vulnerabilities. If everyone on the same team approaches security from the same angle, they're less likely to identify risks that fall outside of their shared worldview. And those consequences can be really serious. Those blind spots can lead to loss of user trust, actual harm, even compliance violations, especially when the products or systems we're securing are meant to serve a diverse population. So in the long run, that will cause financial damage, but more importantly, it erodes reputational credibility. Once a company is known for failing to consider the needs or safety of its users, it's really hard to regain that trust. Um, that's why building diverse teams isn't just a values-based decision, it's a strategic one, and it directly impacts the effectiveness and the integrity of our cybersecurity efforts. So one of the most important and sometimes overlooked benefits of diversity in cybersecurity is the impact it has on user-centered security. So creating systems that are not only secure, but also usable and inclusive. When diverse teams are involved in building technology, they're more likely to design with different user needs in mind, whether that's language, ability, cultural context, or level of tech comfortability. This kind of inclusive design makes systems more accessible and more intuitive, which actually improves security overall. So think about it. If a security feature is hard to use or understand, people are oftentimes going to bypass it if it's too difficult. But when tech is built with real world users in mind, offering things like multi-language support, accessible design, or customizable login options, users are more likely to engage with it safely and correctly. Diverse teams also bring different perspectives and experiences, which identify security gaps that teams might miss. Um, and ultimately, it's just a better user experience, which leads to better security behavior. When security is designed with people in mind, not just policies, we build systems that protect everyone, not just those who are technically savvy. One of the most powerful ways we can empower more women in cybersecurity is by starting early through education and outreach. Programs that introduce girls to STEM, especially those tailored to coding, cybersecurity, and ethical hacking, can ignite interest at a young age. Initiatives like Girls Who Code, Black Girls Code, and Cyber Patriot aren't just teaching technical skills, they're building confidence and showing girls that they do belong in this space. So early exposure is critical. When young girls see women in tech roles, whether through guest speakers, media representation, or classroom projects, it expands their sense of what is possible. If they don't see anyone who looks or thinks like them in cybersecurity, they're less likely to often see it as a path for themselves. Um, and finally, we can't overlook the importance of community partnerships. Schools, nonprofits, and tech companies working together can offer scholarship, mentorship, and access to resources that many students may not have otherwise had. The earlier we invest in that outreach, the more likely we are to build a generation of women who see themselves not only entering into cybersecurity, but leading in it. Mentorship and sponsorship are two of the most powerful tools we have to help women not only enter the field, but thrive. in the field of cybersecurity. So starting with mentorship, this can be formal or informal, whether it's an assigned relationship through a program or a more organic connection with someone you trust. Mentors offer guidance, feedback, and emotional support. They help you navigate the challenges of the field, identify growth opportunities, and build confidence in your skills. But mentorship alone isn't always enough, and that's where sponsorship comes in. While mentors advise you, sponsors advocate for you. They are often in leadership roles and use their influence to open doors, whether that's nominating somebody for a high visibility project, recommending them for a promotion, or simply saying their name in a room full of decision makers. So both of these relationships are essential, but sponsorship can be a game changer, especially for women who are often overlooked for leadership roles despite their qualifications. And beyond one-on-one relationships, we need to focus also on building strong networks in spaces where women can connect with peers, share knowledge, and support one another, um, whether it's through different professional organizations such as this one. It's incredibly empowering. While individual efforts like mentorship and education are essential, real impact happens when organizations commit to structural change from the top down, starting with inclusive hiring practices. So this can mean rethinking how job descriptions are written, removing unnecessary jargon or requirements that may unintentionally discourage qualified or more than qualified women for applying. It also means using diverse hiring panels and focusing on skills-based evaluations, not just past job titles or degrees, which can be very limiting for candidates with non-traditional background. Next, leadership accountability is also key. Companies often say they value diversity, but unless those goals are measured and tied to performance, change can be very slow. Leaders should reflect the diversity they're trying to build. So representation at the top sends a clear message about what is possible. HR policies also play a major role. Flexible schedules, paid parental leave, of course, clear promotion criteria, safe reporting channels for harassment or bias all help create an environment where women can succeed and stay. Um, these policies support equity and psychological safety as well, which are both essential for long-term retention. Um, at the end of the day, culture isn't what a company says, it's what it tolerates. And changing the culture can take deliberate, ongoing commitment. So one of the most effective ways to empower women entering the cybersecurity field is by providing access to certifications and financial support, which are essential tools for breaking through traditional barriers. So starting with certifications, these credentials can often be the key to getting hired or promoted in cybersecurity. And I listed some more of the popular ones on here. I won't read through every single one, but I just kind of showed it here on the slide just to give example for the different industry recognized certification programs. Um, of course, these certifications can be costly, so scholarships and grants are critical. So organizations such as the ones on our slide here are offer targeted funding and mentorship for women looking to grow their cybersecurity careers. Many of these programs also connect participants to job opportunities and exclusive learning cohorts. And then in addition to formal education, there's also free or low-cost resources out there as well. And then finally, community matters. Of course, keeping up on different networking groups, not just networking groups, but places where women can find mentors, share job leads, and get the encouragement they need to stay in the field and also rise and thrive. And when we combine opportunity with access, we create the conditions for real transformation in this industry. And as we wrap up, I just want to thank you all for being a part of this really important conversation. Today, we talked about the urgent need for greater diversity in cybersecurity, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's essential for building stronger, smarter, and safer systems. We've seen how representation drives innovation, how cognitive diversity improves risk detection, and how inclusive environments help women not just survive in cybersecurity, but lead in it as well. So whether you have a a career in HR, leadership, education, or tech, you have a role to play. So be an ally, challenge bias, invest in potential, not just credentials. The more we intentionally create space for women and underrepresented voices, the more resilient our cybersecurity efforts will be. That concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? I think I saw a couple come up in the chat. I think I will
Yes.
have to stop sharing though in order to see them. I can't
I'll,
expand the
I'll,
view.
I'll read them for you if you like,
Oh,
Eric.
perfect.
All right,
Yeah.
so first from Elizabeth. Elizabeth says, knowing that this is how things have always been done and burnout being expected, why has no one changed the norms of how we do security work, like rotating shifts more often during an incident or requiring 3 or 4 days off every month or so just to keep people fresh and able to work well and keep thinking clearly? How does the
Hmm.
techie workaholic stereotype get changed and lose its appeal?
And that I love that question so much. It is one that I constantly contemplate. um, because ultimately that would have to be a top-down change. I know that we, are working to make movement in that. We see, some direction, but of course, any sort of change with that is slow. Really, what we're going off of, since it is a more, still a more male-dominated field, they do go with work schedules in particular. Women go off of a totally different um, productivity cycle than men do. Um, so it is kind of geared more towards the male every 24-hour cycle. They have rises and falls. It goes, there's scientific evidence to back up, like our hormonal changes and everything like that. Whereas women are more effective on a 28 to 30 day productivity cycle. But I believe me, I've tried to think about that because I'm like, it's something that constantly eats at me, and it is a definite change that needs to happen.
Also, you can feel free to come off mute and ask Erica a question if you want to. But we have another question from Victoria. It says, what great companies would you suggest for internships or cohorts in the cybersecurity field?
Oh, I would have to get back to you on that one. I'm sorry. There's none that jump off to me offhand. Um, if that is a question I can take back and research, I would like to provide a better response.
Certainly, we'll have all the questions, and someone asked if you'll receive the slides after the meeting. There will be a recording of this, and it will go out to everyone. And Erica, if you're kind enough to share your slides, we'll
Of
send those
course.
out as well. So there's also another question here. If we struggle with being pigeonholed in IT, even after persistently advocating for ourselves to management, what would you recommend if a department structure or lack of progression track leaves someone feeling stuck in their IT department?
Oh, you know, I've been there, and there's honestly, that's a tough spot to be in because it does kind of lead you to the question of, do I stick around and wait it out? Do I wait for things to get better? Do I wait for, this person to get promoted or retire and leave sometimes in some circumstances? Or do you just look at taking your skills to a company that is you're better suited for, who is more aligned with what your values are? It doesn't ever hurt to, you know, to apply, and upon interview, whenever you're interviewing, you are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you, to find out what the company's values are. Do they value growth? Can they give examples of that so you can determine if you're a good fit and, and making it clear that you don't want to just stay pigeonholed and stagnant, that you are interested in those opportunities. I say if you're in a place and you're just feeling stuck and like your voice is not being heard, then just put a time cap on it. And, if not, then you may have to look at, unfortunately, hopping ship.
All right, and Anna says, I'm about halfway through a cloud computing degree with this administration doing away with diversity guidelines. I'm wondering what I can do to give myself a better chance when I try to join the workforce.
Um, well, one thing that's always been helpful for me is whenever you are looking ahead, looking further down the road, look on the job boards now to see what ideally you are interested in and what qualifications those companies are looking for. See if there's any commonalities. Do you need to obtain certain certifications, or do they all, kind of seem the same? And then maybe look at beefing up your resume to include all of that. hmm before you apply. But also, again, going back to the presentation, men who are underqualified apply for jobs all the time if they feel they meet 60% of the requirements, whereas women feel like they have to meet 100%. And that's certainly not the case. You have the skills for it. It's just a matter of painting things sometimes in a light to show that you have those skills, and also you have the soft skills. You're teachable, you're a great learner. Those are all just as important things.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is if you can do any kind of internship, even if you have to volunteer sometime. And I would strongly suggest you work with our career services group on that. They do have internships that they post because having been a chief information officer before coming to WGU, I will tell you that we love experience, certs and experience. All right, our next question is, can cloud computing majors get jobs in cybersecurity?
Um, I'm honestly not sure. I'm not sure of the requirements for that. Can I take that one back as well?
Yeah, I can comment on that because I'm
Yeah.
over in the School of Technology. So I would say if your degree is in cloud computing, you're going to have Net Plus and Security Plus certifications from CompTIA. So those are really great bases. You're probably going to want to add some more cyber certs to that stack, maybe, depending on who you want to work for, maybe some Cisco certs or, and this is probably where, Erica, you could help me, but I think another security cert or two would probably help you break in that field. And especially if you have some cloud work experience, I think it would be helpful as well. All right, and then the next question is, I've been trying to enter the help desk workforce now that I've got my CompTIA A+, but I've found and seen from others it's really difficult to get entry-level jobs right now. Do you have any advice to stand out or get in the field?
Hmm. I might need your help with that one as well,
All right,
Becky.
all right, I'll jump in this one too. So, well, we do have one great suggestion in the chat. Networking and telling the management of the IT, your IT department, you're interested in shadowing or pursuing IT can help. And I think that's a really good idea. Networking, I think, is a good way to get jobs because there are so many shadow jobs that are posted, and there are a lot of, applications that are sent in that are not people too. So it works both ways. So I think networking where you're talking to real people is very helpful. I would also be very active on LinkedIn. I think that's helpful where you might meet people. And any local IT meetings or IT organizations that you can find, it's great to go to those where you also get to network and meet people. And then you have the CompTIA A plus. I would add to that stack, kind of that base stack is A plus, Net plus, Security plus. I think once you add Net plus, Security plus, you'll have a little leg up on those entry level jobs. And then what I said before, even if you have to volunteer, try to get some kind of experience and be able to tell someone what what you learned from that. Yeah, persistence. Let's see what other questions we have. Does WGU provide access to LinkedIn Learning for students? I feel like I should know that, but I don't know the answer to that. Do you know that, Erica?
I know we do with a couple of our courses. If it's course specific, they'll put it, some of the time they'll put it in the course of study or the course learning resources if it relates to the content material provided in the course. But I don't think there's like a portal page out there, or like a training page with direct access to LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah, and you can get it through libraries across the U.S. and yeah, here's somebody helped us a lot, so we
Oh,
do have
thank you.
access.
Yes.
So thank you. I love it when the students know that. So
That's
I
helpful
was
to
also
know.
going to suggest career services is a great place to go for that because they have access to a lot of things. They have a mock interview tool that's really cool. So. And then somebody said they got their job as a computer systems analyst with no cert simply by reaching out to their IT director. And there's a lot to be said for somebody who knows the business. You could be great at IT, but you also have to know the business. So I could see why an IT director, if you know the business, would want to bring you into the group and then you can learn on the job. So that sounds great. I think I don't see any more questions right now, but well, we do have one here now. I just started a job in IT with zero experience. I'm the only girl in my office. Any advice? So, what advice do we have for Veronica?
Veronica, I say be confident. You deserve to be there 100%. Your experience and your work ethic, just let that speak for itself. The gender stuff, um, if there is a problem, let HR handle it, but just be there to do your job, focus on the work, and just keep being the shining, wonderful worker that you are. Victoria said, knock 'em dead. I second that.
Yeah, and just keep learning. I think in IT, we have to remake ourselves all the time. We have to constantly learn and change. So, what a great opportunity to learn. And if you can find a mentor, that's great. Mentors are very helpful in those situations. And I've had some wonderful mentors in IT. Most of them were men, but they were great. And they really helped me with my career. All right, I did have one question for Erica. Erica, you've had a really interesting career in security and in technology. I was wondering what you're most proud of accomplishing.
Oh, goodness. Wow. So let me think on that a second. I feel like I've had like a zillion jobs. I would actually say it would have to be soon after I got out of the military, right before my clinical systems analyst job, which was actually the job before that was my segue into IT. Um, I I helped I worked on a contract where I helped the Department of Veteran Affairs build out their community care network of providers. So providers who don't work specifically with the VA, but contract with them in order to see veterans. So veterans are not waiting an exorbitant amount of time, to get seen by a provider, which actually me helping build that network and helping them like like with systems integration because of the contract we were on just kind of called for that. um, that's what got me interested in it, but it was a real proud accomplishment to see that network grow and to see tangible evidence that veterans were now getting care with specialists that they weren't previously receiving before the start of that contract, I think.
That sounds fantastic, Erica. I know that all the veterans who use that system really appreciate that, and anyone who has waited for a long time really values that outcome. So, thank you for that, and thank you for your service in the military and for being at WGU. We probably have time for one or two more questions from Erica if you have anything. All right. How do you land your first IT job with zero experience? Erica, any
Um,
thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, I was just talking on mute and I was putting a laughing emoji with what Victoria asked with what color is your Superwoman cape?
Well,
I'd
we
say
want to know
pink.
that too,
Yeah.
so you can tell us that first if you want to.
I'd say pink. Like a like a
Pink.
like
All
a
right.
cranberry pink. Um, how do you land your first IT job with zero experience? Just by leveraging your wonderful education. That's what we pride ourselves on here at WGU is competency-based learning, and of course, like trying to set you up with real-world scenarios where you can enter the workforce and be confident of your capability. And I think confidence is the key thing. And of course, yes, networking as well, getting a mentor. Sometimes your mentor is the person that you least expect, like a role model, that you can go to for advice or just kind of ping ideas off of. But I would say just being ultra confident, you know your stuff. If you don't know it, then you are incredibly smart and you have the tools and the resources to, get the answers to the questions that you have, even if you don't know them offhand. It just comes with time, honestly, and giving yourself that grace to learn and grow. It's necessary. Not everybody's going to be patient, but you have to be patient with yourself, and ensuring that you learn everything.
Erica, that sounds like good advice. And then the next question is, what do you recommend to work on imposter syndrome and convincing yourself you can make it in cyber?
Brooke, I recommend gaslighting yourself and be as delusional as possible. No, not really. You're not delusional. If you ever heard the term "fake it until you make it," that's just getting yourself headed in the right direction and kind of hyping yourself up to be confident that you can. You can also take a look around you and see that your coworkers don't know what they're doing either. Half the time there's really good pretenders. So you can stand in solidarity with knowing that you are not alone. Other people are just good at masking it. So we're all just out here figuring it out. So you got to show yourself some grace.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And then I would say also, if you can find a mentor can really help you with that and can be someone you can, talk to about those feelings, and just someone that will, that will boost you up and help you have the confidence in yourself to do it, because you've got this. You can do it, and just, keep telling yourself that. And then I think also it might not be at work, but find a network of people who can help you build your confidence. So that's a lot of what happens in our Women in Tech Club. So a lot of like-minded individuals that will, help you when you have a moment. And don't forget to celebrate yourself. I think sometimes we're too hard on ourselves. So give yourself a little grace if you make a mistake. Everyone does. You just
Absolutely.
tell yourself you just proved you were human that day, because we all make them. We have one more question. Do you ever see network engineers within your department, and do you ever work with them?
I have in previous roles, yes, I have with the software engineers. Or is that what we mean? Sorry,
Network.
I mean, oh, maybe not. Sorry. No, I don't. That's not happened in my experience.
Yep. And I have, in my experience, I have, of course, worked with network engineers, and gosh, they're critical. We need them. So, all right. Well, I think we're almost out of time. So, Erica, I just want to thank you so much for being here. What a great session. I love the questions and answers. And everyone, we will be sending out the video and the slides. It's usually 3 or 4 days before they go out. And we will have another session coming up in May that's on leadership styles. And so I hope you will join us for that session. And in the meantime, I hope you will have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Yes, thank you all so much for your time, your attentiveness, and your energy. I really appreciate you today. Thank you so much.
All righty, good night, everyone.